A nurse is vaccinated, but just minutes later, this happens.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so who's getting the vaccine now? I'm just kidding, guys. That is probably a one-off event. In all seriousness, this video is going to be relatively unbiased, and by the end of it, you might think I'm for rather than against the vaccine. Especially if the vaccine works, because the vaccine is going to be the biggest driver of the market in the next coming few months. Bigger than stimulus, bigger than Federal Reserve. So this is a massive deal if it does work. And also in this video, I'll cover exactly how these vaccines work, which vaccine seems to be the best, and also one problem I've encountered researching this, even if they work and there's no side effects, we do have another problem with them. And finally, at the end of the video, we're going to jump into the charts and we're going to see which of the stocks makes the most sense as far as trading them or investing in them. So that is something to pay attention to. Stay tuned. Without further ado, we're actually going to jump into the computer today and we're going to have all the information in front of us. So let's do it. So this is what the vaccine actually is. It's actually an mRNA vaccine, which is about the second step here. The first step is we sort of get the DNA to open up its strand, and so the pre-mRNA chemicals can actually, the raw materials can go into that open strand, and then it creates like a carbon copy, as you can see here, of the DNA. And then this becomes the mRNA. The mRNA is basically dispersed into the rest of your cell, and then it interacts with the organelles which make the proteins. And then it just uses these instructions, which have been a carbon copy of whatever's in the DNA. Pretty simple stuff. And then we just make the proteins. Now, how this vaccine works is that it skips the opening up your DNA part, so that's good, because there's a lot of fears right now of actually the vaccine affecting your DNA. But according to what they say on the box, according to this technology, it doesn't do that. It just gets like what we think is the carbon copy of the DNA, and then uses the mRNA as instructions to make the protein. The beautiful thing is it only lasts for a few days to a few weeks, the mRNA. It doesn't stick around too much. In fact, that's just how we make proteins in our body. We open up the DNA, we make the mRNA, which is active for a few days to a few weeks, and then once that's over, we stop making that type of protein and we've got to make new mRNA. In fact, this is true to the fact that these vaccines, we have to get 2 doses because they don't last that long. We get our first dose with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the mRNA vaccines. We get the first dose, that only lasts for 3 weeks, and then we have to get the second dose in order to fill like the 4-week window by which we can build a strong enough immune response to it. So that's like sort of proof that this mRNA vaccine doesn't stick around for too much. So this is what's encouraging, because a lot of people have a lot of fears about long-term effects and how it will affect our DNA. Well, the mRNA, maybe it's just a Trojan horse and it's too good to be true, but accordingly, we have to use 2 doses because it just doesn't last in our bodies that long. And then once we have the immune response, that immune response should last for a good while. But I'll get to exactly how long that while is, and that could be a potential issue. Just touching on the mRNA a little bit more. So the Pfizer vaccine, because the mRNA degrades so easily, it needs to be stored in -94 Fahrenheit and will degrade in 5 days. -94 Fahrenheit is -70 degrees Celsius for non-US folks out there. So it's really cold, and you have to store it at that temperature always, and it only lasts for 5 days. Now, in comparison, Moderna, that can last in deep freeze, which is only -20 degrees Celsius or minus around 40 Fahrenheit. In deep freeze, it can last for 6 months. and you can store it in like, where is it? Like home freezer, like 0 degrees for about a month. So it's like storing ice cream, really. It's like, you know, it's storing, you know, typical stuff you store in the freezer, pretty easy, and you can last for a month or 6 months in deep freeze. So, you know, obviously we're going to go into the stock charts at the end of this video, but I think we can start to gauge that Moderna is looking a little bit better than Pfizer. Now, well, there's my calculations of Fahrenheit to Celsius. But yeah, we've still got a lot of other candidates for vaccines. China has 3 vaccines. Now, I'm not going to go into whether they work or not and how good they are. Astra Zeneca has 1 too. There's still work to be done on that, I think. I mean, the Brits, it comes from the UK, the Brits approved the Pfizer vaccine. That's the one they're using. So, you know, what does that say? You know, and then there's one from Australia that they're making, and there is also one from India. So there's a few other vaccines, and I think maybe the Russians are making a vaccine. So if these don't work, we might have other candidates from other countries. So going forward in 2021, it's just going to be vaccines. That's what it's going to be about. So that's what also the market's going to be driven on. It's going to be focused all on the vaccines. The algos are going to be watching and studying vaccine news. Now, I've also looked into, in terms of how do I say it? The side effects. There hasn't been many side effects. The trials have gone pretty well, and there's minimal side effects apart from sore arms and inflammatory responses and a little bit of allergic responses so far. I'm going to dive in the next video on this channel on like the serious allergic responses and why some of like the CEOs and leaders won't take the vaccine. So that is like, we're going to dive into all like the fears, potentially conspiracy theories out there. I think it's worth looking into, and I think it will just be interesting, if anything. All right, but I do have something. It's not all good news in my view. It's not all good news. I do have to bring up a major issue, which we may run into for in a couple of months. Now, one thing is I mentioned that this mRNA vaccine doesn't last for that long. It doesn't last for that long in your cells. It disintegrates, let's say, in about 3 weeks and it's gone. Now, the question is, how long does your immune response last for? Now, what they did with the SARS vaccine, they actually gave up on it. And it was a similar type of development. But what happened with SARS vaccine was that after the antibodies had a couple of months, they sort of started to disintegrate. The strength of the antibody immune response to SARS, the first one, once that started dipping in a couple of months' time, then what happened was a thing called ADE, antibody-dependent enhancement. And I'll just quickly explain. Antibody, I'll get into Wikipedia, is called a phenomenon which binding a virus to suboptimal antibodies enhances its entry into the host cell, followed by its replication. In other words, when the antibody is not that strong and weakens after a couple of months, let's say SARS or COVID attaches onto this antibody much easier and gets into our systems much easier than if we had no antibodies in the first place. It's just like, it's kind of like it hooks onto these things which are supposed to kill the virus, but that antibody is not strong enough to kill it, and instead just drags it right into our bodies, and so the virus just spreads really quickly inside our organs and our cells. So it'd actually be better if we never had the vaccine or never had the virus in the first place, because once our immune response dips, it's like the Trojan horse for the second infection to come in, and it wreaks even more havoc. So the reinfection issue is a big problem. So once these vaccines wear off, that's when the danger lies, because the virus can really hook onto these, sort of the lightweight, degraded antibodies, and then just get right into our body. So it's even more dangerous the second time. The question is, before that happens, will they suggest us take another booster shot, another vaccine again after a few months, because the reinfection is even more dangerous than the first infection? Interesting. I think that might be a possibility. They might get us to keep taking shots every couple of months. Now, I don't have to tell you too much, but if I am a vaccine company, how much money am I going to make? You know what I mean? So that's why we're going to dive into the stock chart a little bit later on. But you might go, oh, that's just a crazy theory, Abe. That's just a crazy theory. But this is what happened in the first SARS vaccine that tried to make. In fact, that's why they gave up. We never had a vaccine for SARS. This is SARS-2. It's just a little bit different from the first SARS. So in late 2003, the team tested whether the antibodies would attack spike proteins from 2 SARS strains isolated from civets, from which the virus was thought to originally have jumped into humans. So they got the SARS virus from the humans, and they shoved it back into the civets, which they thought where the vaccine originally came from. And then what happened was that the virus seemed to infect the antibodies actually allowed the virus to come in and infect the animal even worse the first time. And that's when they go, oh my God, let's stop this. Because having the vaccine in the first time, and as it wears off, once it wears off, when that virus comes back in, it hits really, really hard. That is the reason why they stopped developing the SARS-1 vaccine. Just an FYI. And you can fact check that and all that sort of stuff. I can't find the exact article I read, but that was the major reason they stopped the first SARS vaccine. That's why we don't have a vaccine for this one. Now, I don't mean to concern you, and this is backed up in the Nature magazine, nature.com, and then they actually said before the vaccines were developed, one potential hurdle for antibody-based vaccines and therapeutics is the risk of exacerbating COVID-19 severity via antibody-dependent enhancements, ADE. ADE can increase the severity of multiple viral infections, including other viruses such as respiratory syncytial virus and measles. So it's saying also on nature.com, and this is I'll put the link up on the description, but it's saying that it opens our bodies to other viruses like measles even worse. So that is a major problem. And I'm not saying the vaccine has this problem, but I'm saying the ADE process, the antibody dependent enhancement, when you get the infection once and your immune system sort of degrades against it, and then it just pulls in the virus just like that. And not just that virus, pulls in other viruses much easier. Very dangerous. Hopefully this video stays up on YouTube. Anyway, now, I'm sure some people are gonna fact check me. Fair enough. So on newswise.com, there's already a fact checker. The claim that COVID vaccines will cause more severe disease through antibody-dependent enhancement is not yet supported. On Newswise, fact check by Craig Jones. Truthfulness, mostly false. Look, have I fact checked myself? Am I wrong now? Did I just waste your time? Let's dig in a little bit more and you'll see I haven't wasted your time, right? They say yada, 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 it's not really true, blah, blah, blah. I'll get straight to the kicker. So they basically said that posts claiming COVID-19 vaccine will lead to more severe disease went viral on social media platforms examples here and here. This is based on, what other diseases, what other vaccines, diseases, how there was ADE. I'm going to get to the end. However, ADE has not been shown to occur in individuals that received the COVID-19 vaccines to date. So this is mostly false because we haven't seen this to date. Well, guess what? The vaccines have only come out for a little while, and the ADE, like the degradation of our immune response to it, hasn't really occurred yet. You'll only find out months after someone takes the vaccine. And then you'll know, once the degradation is severe enough, then these antibodies that we have, instead of killing the virus, it will drag that virus right into our body. It will open up the gateways. Because let's just say this, like, let's say you have, this is the virus and this is the antibody. The antibody sort of finds the fit and then it just like grabs on and kills it. But the thing is, when you have a virus with the spike proteins, you got your own antibodies that detects it. It hooks on to the virus, but it's not strong enough to kill it. So it just drags it along into different parts of the body and it can't kill it. And that's when it's really dangerous. It will just hook on and just drag it around. It's insane. Now, I'm maybe oversimplifying it, but that's what it is. And you can research yourself also, but I've just made it relatively simple for you, hopefully. Now, with that in mind, I still am pretty positive on this, because if they work on the way they say on the box, it's going to be an absolute crazy game changer. By the way, I have to also mention, just sort of breaking news that's come in, is that this UK strain, which is 70% more infectious, I mean, that's something to factor in too, because we've got a new strain now. Now, they say that the vaccine will still deal with that because the mutation is not sufficient enough for it to, like, the vaccine will still work because the mutation is not that much. Fair enough. Now, the question is, what if there's more of a mutation? Because COVID's going to keep mutating, I suppose, right? What if this vaccine, we need to get a new type of vaccine because it doesn't work anymore? We need to develop a new antibody. So it's not just going to be like every couple of months we need a booster shot. Now, every couple of months we need to deal with the next strain and the next strain. Now, I could just see the conspiracy theories coming up, and I'm not saying that to knock on conspiracy theories. I'm just saying, you say conspiracy theories because, the mainstream media tells you that's what you got to say about any independent, non-mainstream thinking is conspiracy theory. But, I come up with conspiracy theories all the time in the stock market because, I think the stock's going to go up. Is that a conspiracy theory? Or the stock market's going to drop? Is that a theory? That's a theory. Is a conspiracy? Well, technically, yes, because a stock can only go up if enough people buy it. So that's a conspiracy for it to go up, or conspiracy for it to go down. You think people are going to sell it at the same time, and it's a theory. Well, you short the market, right? So every trade is like a conspiracy theory if you think about it in that way specifically. Anyway, with that being said, let's dig into the charts. Hey guys, before I forget, I just want to quickly say, if you're liking the video, please feel free to hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Just smash that red button and even the bell too. That'll be cool. And finally, if you have friends or your social network is going to enjoy it, please feel free to share on your social networks and through private message. That's really cool too. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Video continues right here. Thanks. On your left, you have Pfizer. Now, this is the interesting chart. At its peak, it was the 8th of December, and we had this run-up since late October, around the 29th of October. So it's had one massive run-up from around $33 to $43. That's about $10 increase in about 25 days, trading days. Now, the beautiful thing is that now it's come back down another about $5.70. So that's a massive retracement. And we're at the 50 moving average. The trajectory down has slowed down. Pfizer, as we know, is the one that can't, has the, extreme refrigeration requirements. So that's something to bear in mind. But they are first off the mark. and they're being used throughout the UK, and they're being used in the USA. They're the first ones out, you know, and they've got the head start. And also it is Pfizer, so Pfizer do make other medicines apart from the vaccines, and it's a you know, big company. They make everything basically in the medical field. So firstly, you're getting a solid company, and you're going to be participating in this vaccine, and you're get it for a cheap price. And I'm going to look a little bit further on the left a little bit. You see there has been a bit of support there, a lot of buying action here, a lot of trades and a lot of stuck traders. Kind of a technical term, but all the people that have shorted there or whatnot are stuck in that area. So there's going to be some support there. We've got the 50 moving average. It's slowing down, and we've got more support around the $37 mark. $37, you know, you see this horizontal line. So Pfizer's the first off the mark, and I think it's a good trading opportunity. I think we might get a bounce, depending on what you see in the markets right now. Now, the second one is, of course, we're going to look at Moderna stock. The Moderna stock, this is the one, this is probably the go-to stock. And, you know, you can see on the chart on your left right now that it hasn't really dropped that much. It's only come back, it's not little necessarily, it's come down $30 from 170 to now 140 approximately. But it did have a run up from 66 bucks all the way to about 180, and now it's back to down to 140. Can it drop more? Certainly. If there's an issue with the virus, issue with the vaccine, then it could drop further more. Or if the stock market begins to fall, who knows? This new UK strain might, you know, cause more lockdowns and so forth. The next level down, if we're not getting it at that, about 135, is about $100, and that's where the 50 moving average is. And, you know, I don't use many indicators on the chart. In fact, I just put indicators here down at the bottom just to, you know, because people think indicators mean you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing, I've got to say. I mean, ideally, I take this off. You know, I don't need to look at it. I can see with my own eyes. But really, if you get 100, beautiful. If you've got the patience to go for it. But I would say that right now, I might not get it. I'll look to maybe let it dip to around 130, because this still looks kind of bearish from what I can read on the charts. But, you know, by all means, Moderna is probably the one that you want to look at. Secondly, also, if those issues about having to do booster shots month after month or every couple of months, or if there's new strains that come out, means that these guys are going to be printing money, right? This is the negative is actually a positive for these vaccines, if you understand, if you know what I mean, right? Now, we're going to look at Astra Zeneca real quick. Astra Zeneca. And you'll see, like, you know, on the chart, this doesn't look that fantastic, to be honest. Astra Zeneca, yeah. So it's at the new lows, pushing lows. It's supposed to go up, you know, vaccines, you know, what else it's supposed to do? It's dropping to lows. So, you know, on the chart, that looks really suspicious. Now, finally, we're going to go into the stock markets, because it's not worth just diving into a stock necessarily without understanding the broader markets. Now, in my previous videos, I actually talked about how I thought the market was kind of weak, and there wasn't a Santa Claus rally. If you look at the stocks at the moment, we just had a bit of a drop in the last couple of days. Let's have a look on the S&P 500. So we just dropped from 3,700 to 3,600 in the last trading session. Now we're back to around 3,700. What a scare. Now, I can tell you the algorithms are going to be paying attention to this massive drop down. And I would see perhaps that, let me just get the drawing out, we might be dropping down to around that area again. We might test 3,600 again. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd like to get it at the 50 moving average and buy it up again. But that's just me, you know. By the time it gets to the 50 moving average would be at 3,600. So maybe 3,600 is the level. Or maybe we just have a massive crash. Now, I don't know if you're still with me at the moment, but what we're going to do, we're going to look at some of my more proprietary charts, and we're going to see what's happening across the world. Now, this is a chart of gold, inverse opposite of gold, opposite of yen, and also the Chinese, Japanese, Hong Kong, and German stock markets. We can see after a massive run up after the election, we haven't really gone up much at all. In fact, you look at what's happening in China, the stock markets, it's not very strong since the election. We had one boost, it had a bit of a drop, and now it's stabilizing. You look at Hong Kong, it's been dipping. Hong Kong's been dipping since end of November. You got Japanese, it hasn't moved up a notch since the end of November. It hasn't moved up a single thing. Australia, again, very similar. In fact, it's kind of declining again. So all these other countries, let's look at Germany. Germany just had a decline, it hasn't really recovered last night. Or even the UK, there's been a little bit of a drop. So, I mean, the Russell has been bullish. The Dow has been less bullish. S&P is basically the same as the Dow in this chart. And then we have NASDAQ, sort of bullish. Everything's sort of bullish. All it needs is a little bit of a drop. This virus spreads a little bit more. People want to take their profits, and we got a drop. So, not the easiest trade or investment out there, but by the time you're seeing this video, it might be a good time. You might get it for cheap. Pfizer or Moderna might have dropped to a level that you might like, and it's worth considering taking a shot. Anyway, I think that's enough for the video. If you like the video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more, subscribe. And if you know someone that would enjoy this video, feel free to share it with your friends as well as your social networks like Facebook or something like that. I think there's a lot of value for you guys. And you know what? Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you guys. Take care. Bye.